Yuji is the fucking GOAT, and this latest episode proved it. With such high detail to the entertaining visuals of this fight, it becomes easy to forget that the episode we experienced last week was still really good, but this one just makes it look so crappy in comparison. This entire episode, we are literally taken on a journey where we witness Yuji's intense and impressive character transformation that we have been subtly witnessing the past 2 to 3 episodes, from a puddle of regret, sadness and depression, to the goated hunter and killer of curses. And I honestly don't think this episode was written this way in order to maximize the entertainment value through visually stunning fight sequences and animations. Oh hell no, brother. This was something entirely purposely poetically written to encapsulate the humanity of Yuji's character with the concept of Kaisen. Now, because this is going to be a video where I brain vomit everything, it will be divided into 3 main points: the concept of Kaisen, breakdown of the fight, and finally the Easter eggs of this episode. Now, in my previous video, I went over the concept of Kaisen maybe a smidgen of a tiny bit, but I'd like to dive into it a bit more, especially due to the fact that I believe this entire episode is a visual metaphor for that exact concept. Kaisen is a philosophy that directly translates to continuous improvement, and it is vastly implemented in Japanese work culture as well as on a philosophical standpoint. And this concept of consistently becoming better and better is something that we have to definitely witness time and time again in this story, especially in this Shibuya arc. Let's take a trip down memory lane. We have seen so many instances of this Kaisen philosophy being implemented throughout this year's arc, and the first one I like to address is the OP general, Mahora. Mahora was a fucking nuisance, an insanely strong opponent to battle that even the King of Curses himself had to use drastic measures to barely defeat him. And this goes to show something that many may have missed. Mahora's primary ability is to adapt to anything thrown at it and overcome it so that when the attack comes again, it already has an immediate counterattack in order to neutralize said attack. This becomes overwhelmingly OP when we notice that most Jujutsu sorcerers really only have a handful of curse techniques in their arsenal. Well, usually only one curse technique and different creative ways of implementing them. So naturally, Mahora is a natural enemy to all Jujutsu sorcerers and curses. If the Jujutsu Kaisen universe was hosted on a gaming server, Mahora would be the player that has God mode and all his cheats enabled, and he is literally that overpowered. But then to bring it back to the original point, he is a prime example of Kaisen. To adapt to the current environment, learn from it, improve and adjust over and over again. And you can tell that this is something that Gege definitely holds a deep value towards since, well, he even included it in the fucking title of this anime to begin with. Anyways, to bring it back to the original point, this week's episode took one step further on developing this Kaisen philosophy. If we remember from last week's episode, Yuji was a fucking mess. Destroyed by the sheer devastation caused by Mahito's destruction, to the point where his soul was only functioning at 20% capability. Yet, this episode we literally see Yuji slowly start to adapt to his situation, tap into his fuel reserves, and learn, engage, and improve throughout the fight itself. And what's also interesting is that it's not just Yuji that does this, Mahito does it as well. And this is shown with his new fighting form, Instant Spirit Body of Distorted Killing. Now, throughout the entire fight, we have witnessed between Mahito and Yuji. It seems to be a tug of war of who's more powerful, and it goes to show that this struggle clarifies that both individuals are probably on the verge of developing from their own ideas of self-improvement. And what I mean by that is that it is blatantly demonstrated throughout these last few episodes the immense growth of their fighting skills episode by episode. Examples of this can be seen with Mahito's sudden grasp of Black Flash, his 0.2 second domain expansion, as well as his understanding of his soul's true shape, which are all overtly visualized to the audience. Now, many may now ask, well, if you're saying all this about Mahito, then how come we haven't seen Yuji evolve to that degree too? And now that's the funny part. He really does. But his improvement lies in his mindset, spirit, and willpower. It is definitely way more subtle put, and not as visually portrayed, but this is 100% intentionally done by Gege, and it does in fact reflect in real life too, which I believe is what separates Yuji and Mahito, and also determines why he won the fight in the end. In real life, we can never gain superpowers or cast fucking domain expansions whenever we are hit with some sort of challenge, obstacle, or enemy. And our obstacles are never really tangible ones, they are all mental. A stressful job, a death in the family, loss of income, loss of love. Real life fucking shit. And Gege goes to show that the only thing we can really do in those situations is to be like Makura or Yuji, and we need to realign our mindset, use these things as fuel in a creative manner, and allow them to naturally improve us as human individuals, that then grant us a strength from within and not externally. This is essentially what allowed Yuji to overcome Mahito's seemingly immense power bump, as he utilized his sharpened mind and focus, critical logical thinking, and awareness, and naturally won the fight using the exact same techniques that he has had from season 1. Only now they have been honed to its limit due to his transformed mind. And what happens at the end of this fight is truly exceptionally written. Mahito had mockingly declared that he is the same as Yuji, but on the flip side, and Yuji eventually says that he agrees, that he is him. Mahito, even though he had declared all this, believed that he was the one hunting down Yuji. But the tables have flipped due to Yuji's immense transformation. Yuji is now the motherfucking hunter, and Mahito is the prey. Funnily enough, Yuji has essentially taken Mahito's soul, which is ironic since Mahito's innate power is one that boasts his understanding of the shape of people's souls. Which then basically reinforces what Yuji had just said, that he is Mahito. He has become the one that has taken Mahito's soul and made it his own. Fucking Gege is a master poetic genius. Nevertheless, we see Yuji greatly overcome Mahito as he flees defeated, trying to run away from his hunter, only for this entire battle to be interrupted by the sudden appearance of Pseudo Geto. And we can only wait to see if Yuji gets any more Kaisen boosts in this next battle. Now, another masterful part of this episode is the amount of Easter eggs that I noticed. Now, I know that some of you might think that I'm just going on a stretch with not only this, but a lot of my insights, but I do think that some of these Easter eggs are rather interesting to note. Now, mind you, Gege is actually around the same age as a lot of us viewers. I think he's about 32, and has probably grown up watching and reading the same weeb shit that we've been exposed to our entire lives. Classics such as Naruto and Bleach are definitely animes that he has been exposed to, and I don't think this is something we can disregard when watching his works. First thing first is a throwback reference to Hunter x Hunter, Gon's Janken move. We see Yuji display this in the final struggle between him and Mahito when he is trying to hit a black flash at will. And if this was intentionally done, it definitely makes sense as Gon is a character that we see that massively represents the idea of adaptation, especially against his fight with Pito, where he literally learns to adapt to his enemy by boosting his own energy on the fucking fly, to be able to beat his opponent through sheer transformation founded on willpower. I think this is deeply fitting to the Kaisen concept displayed throughout this episode. Another Easter egg or reference that I noticed was the injury Yuji sustained by the end of the fight with Mahito, which is the ripped cheek on his left side of his face. The only other time I have ever witnessed this in a character in another anime is Zebra from Toriko. Now, I really liked the character of Zebra, as he was a character that seemed to have the deepest exploration of self and also improvement throughout the entire series of Toriko, and I think it is fitting that Yuji also shares the same ripped open mouth that Zebra has. What's super interesting about his character is that he also embodies the concept of adaptation in various ways throughout this manga. As a recap, so I don't just nerd out on another manga, this is what is described of his character on his wiki page. Zebra sees himself as a form of nature to which he believes that anything that comes by him, from creatures of immense capture levels to harsh natures, must adapt to him and not the other way around. Additionally, he proves to be extremely adaptable, especially during his time in prison, where he was shown to be able to use all of his abilities even with all the restraints he had placed on him. Which, once again, seeing it on Yuji, hyped me up on the potential that lay within him, and greatly exemplified his refined sense of adaptability and improvement. Now, all in all, a lot of people have said that this is probably the greatest episode of all time for Jujutsu Kaisen, but I wouldn't say that just yet. With only 2 episodes left of this season, I think it is important to really appreciate what MAPPA has done for us, and also just to remind ourselves that even though these are entertaining episodes and greatly hyped, there are definitely elements that we can take away from this anime and apply it to our own lives to develop our Kaisen too. Thanks a lot, friends, and I'll see you next time.